What you are about to hear will shock you. 2,000 treasure ships vanished into the Atlantic in 1311. New footprints prove humans walked here 23,000 years ago. This forbidden timeline shatters everything we know about the past. Ancient red-haired giants and sunken pyramids are not just myths. Stay until the end for the most jaw-dropping reveal. The Atlantic Ocean is a vast blue expanse holding ancient secrets. It has swallowed more history than it has ever surrendered to us. Carregent Amplein Maduadsbura Mestelen Denmark and Blend. Imagine the year 1311, when a colossal armada broke the horizon. 2,000 vessels sailed from the Mali Empire, laden with gold. They were commanded by Abu Bakr II, chasing the setting sun. This odyssey launched nearly 2 centuries before Columbus sailed in 1492. History claims Columbus discovered the Americas, but the ocean suggests otherwise. Did this massive Malian fleet perish within the Atlantic's unforgiving currents? Or did they make landfall, their story erased by later historians? This is the central riddle of who truly walked these lands first. We are told the Americas' story began 13,000 years ago. Yet beneath the soil, anomalies emerge that shatter this simple timeline. In New Mexico, fossilized footprints tell a ghost story from the Ice Age. These are clear tracks of children playing and adults hunting together. They are locked in sediment alongside the prints of giant ground sloths. Solvents. Radiocarbon dating places these scenes between 21 and 23,000 years ago. This was millennia before the ice-free corridor supposedly opened for migration. These people were not merely passing through, they were thriving here. They lived in a world of megafauna, challenging our migration assumptions. Now the challenge to the established timeline deepens in the southern hemisphere. At Monte Verde in Chile, the remains of a settlement dating back 18,000 years reveal a sophisticated culture. They built timber-framed shelters and utilized medicinal plants, suggesting they navigated the coastline long before the northern glaciers retreated. Even more controversial is the site of Pedra Ferrada in Brazil, where stone tools chiseled from quartzite have been dated by some researchers to 32,000, perhaps even 50,000 years ago. Critics dismiss these shards as geofacts created by falling rocks, yet the fracture patterns argue for the deliberate hand of man. If humans were crafting tools in the Brazilian interior during the depths of the Pleistocene, how did they arrive? Did they cross the Pacific or hug the Atlantic ice shelves? Belongs to Nexpotimatam Park wooden memishelskaring shalovd, nor the mesti dealik formivande hinistivananda. The accepted history feels less like a record and more like a gatekeeper, barring entry to a far more complex antiquity. Whispers of this lost past echo from the cavernous depths of Lovelock Cave in Nevada. Here, the Paiute people speak of the Sitika, a legendary race of red-haired giants who waged war upon the tribes until they were trapped and suffocated by smoke in this very cavern. When guano miners excavated the site in 1911 and 1912, they reportedly unearthed mummified remains of extraordinary stature, some measuring nearly 8 feet tall, alongside oversized sandals and intricate basketry. While mainstream archaeology attributes these finds to natural variation or distortion, rumors persist of skeletons spirited away to private collections or hidden in the vaults of institutions like the Smithsonian to preserve the evolutionary status quo. Are these merely tall tales or evidence of a distinct, forgotten population that roamed the Great Basin? The narrative of civilization in the Americas is equally fraught with enigmas, nowhere more so than in the steamy jungles of Mesoamerica. The Olmec, thriving along the Gulf Coast of Mexico from 1600 BCE, left behind 17 colossal basalt heads, some weighing 50 tons. These stone sentinels, with their broad features and helmet-like headgear, have sparked fierce debate. Some scholars, such as Ivan van Sertima, have suggested they depict African voyages pointing to the logistical possibility of transatlantic currents. While genetic evidence for this remains elusive, the sheer existence of such monumental engineering without the wheel or beasts of burden is a testament to a sophistication that rivals ancient Egypt. Following the Olmec, the Maya rose to build a civilization that mapped the cosmos with terrifying precision. From the pre-classic era to their classical zenith ending around 900 CE, they constructed cities like Tikal and Palenque. Here, the Temple of the Inscriptions houses the tomb of Pakal the Great. The relief carved upon his sarcophagus lid has famously been interpreted by theorists like Erich von Däniken as a depiction of an ancient astronaut piloting a craft. Though archaeologists identify the imagery as the king's descent into Xibalba, the underworld, the Maya obsession with time, encoded in the long count calendar, and their use of cenotes, limestone sinkholes, as sacrificial portals, reveal a culture that viewed the membrane between this world and the next as permeable. Their sudden collapse, leaving great cities to be reclaimed by the rainforest, remains one of history's most haunting unresolved endings. Further north, the metropolis of Teotihuacan, the city of the gods, dominated central Mexico. At its height between 250 and 500 CE, it housed up to 200,000 souls, arranged in a grid that mirrored the stars. The Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon stand as silent witnesses to a society that burned itself to the ground around 550 CE. Was this a revolt against a theocratic elite or a ritual cleansing? The lack of written records leaves us only with the ashes and the mural-adorned walls. Centuries later, the Aztecs would wander into these ruins and claim them as their ancestral birthplace, forging their own empire of blood and obsidian. Until the Spanish conquest of 1521 severed the lineage of Mesoamerican power. In the high thin air of the Andes, the mysteries assume a different shape. The civilization of Norte Chico, centered at Caral, flourished as early as 3700 BCE, building earthen pyramids and sunken plazas in the Supi Valley, while Mesopotamia was still in its infancy. They left no ceramics, only the enduring structure of their society. Later, the Chavin culture, emerging around 900 BCE, constructed the labyrinthine temple at Chavin de Huantat, a place designed to disorient and terrify initiates with roaring acoustics and hallucinogenic rituals involving the San Pedro cactus. Yet it is the Nazca culture, thriving from 100 to 800 CE, that mark the earth most indelibly. Their geoglyphs, colossal spiders, monkeys, and hummingbirds etched into the desert floor, are fully visible only from the sky. Were these lines prayers to distant gods, procession routes for water rituals? Or, as fringe theories suggest, navigational markers for visitors from the stars? The Inca, the final masters of the Andes, stitched these landscapes together with 25,000 miles of roads and stonework, cut with such precision that not even a knife blade can slide between the blocks. Machu Picchu, perched in the cloud forest, remains an architectural marvel that survived the seismic violence of the region. Without a written alphabet, the Inca encoded their empire's data in the quipu, a system of knotted strings that modern science is only beginning to decipher. Their fall to Pizarro in 1532 was swift, aided by disease and civil war. But the legends of their hidden gold and the lost city of Petiti continue to lure explorers into the Amazonian green hell. North of the Rio Grande, the landscape is scarred by the remnants of the Mississippian culture. Cahokia, near modern-day St. Louis, rose around 1050 CE as a city larger than London at the time. Dominated by Monk's Mound, an earthen pyramid with a base rivaling the Great Pyramid of Giza. The site's wood henge aligned with the solstices, proving these people were master astronomers. In the American Southwest, the ancestral Puebloans constructed the great houses of Chaco Canyon and the cliff dwellings of Mesa Verde, only to abandon them abruptly in the late 13th century. Was it drought that drove them out, or a spiritual crisis that forced a migration documented in the oral histories of the Hopi? The possibility of pre-Columbian contact extends beyond the Vikings, whose settlement at Lumsog Meadows is now historical fact. The Solutrean hypothesis proposes that Stone Age Europeans navigated the edge of the Atlantic ice pack 20,000 years ago, bringing with them the technology to craft the distinctive laurel leaf blades found at the Topper site in South Carolina. In the realm of medieval intrigue, tales of the Knights Templar fleeing persecution in the 1300s lead to the Newport Tower in Rhode Island and the enigmatic Money Pit of Oak Island, Nova Scotia. Could these sites hide the treasures of a dissolved order, or are they misinterpretations of colonial industry? The Peary Race map of 1513, displaying the coastline of the Americas with startling accuracy, suggests that knowledge of the New World existed in the cartographic archives of the Old World long before the Age of Discovery officially began. From the Pacific, the currents carry evidence of Asian influence. The fleets of Admiral Zheng He, the Ming Dynasty eunuch, who commanded treasure ships 400 feet long, may have reached the Americas in 1421, decades before Columbus. While written records of such a journey are absent, the discovery of Chinese stone anchors off the California coast and the presence of Valdivia pottery in Ecuador, which bears a striking resemblance to Jomon ceramics from Japan dating to 3000 BCE, hint at transoceanic contact. The Polynesians, the greatest open ocean navigators of history, almost certainly made the crossing. The sweet potato, a South American native, has been cultivated in Oceania for a millennium, and chicken bones, with Polynesian DNA found in Chile, confirm that the Pacific was a highway, not a barrier. We return to the enigma of Abu Bakr II and the African presence. The currents that flow from the coast of Senegal to Brazil act as a natural conveyor belt, one that Thor Heyerdahl proved navigable with his Rye expeditions. If the Malian fleet survived, they would have encountered a world already teeming with civilizations. The Tamils between West African and Mesoamerican cultures, from pyramid construction to the reverence for jade and gold, are dismissed by mainstream scholars as independent invention, yet the questions linger. Did the Mandinka mariners influence the cultures they met, or did they simply assimilate, their distinct identity dissolving into the genetic tapestry of the Americas? Lurking beneath the waters of the Caribbean is the phantom of Atlantis. Plato's description of a sophisticated empire swallowed by the sea finds a strange resonance in the submerged structures discovered off the coast of Cuba in 2001. Sonar images reveal geometric formations at depths of 2,000 feet that resemble pyramids and urban grids. Similarly, the Bimini Road in the Bahamas presents a formation of limestone blocks that appear paved by human hands. Are these the ruins of a coastal civilization drowned by the meltwater pulses of the last ice age, or merely geological curiosities? The recurrence of flood myths among the Taino, the Maya, and the Aztecs suggests a collective memory of a watery cataclysm that reshaped their world. The mysteries of the Americas are not limited to ruins and currents. They extend into the realm of the inexplicable. The crystal skulls, such as the famous Mitchell-Hedges skull, are marvels of lapidary work that seem to defy the technical capabilities of their supposed creators. While many have been exposed as 19th-century European forgeries, believers maintain they are ancient repositories of knowledge. Strange artifacts like the Kensington runestone in Minnesota, bearing Norse inscriptions dated to 1362, and the Bat Creek stone in Tennessee, with its Paleo-Hebrew characters, challenge the isolationist model of history. Are these hoaxes or evidence that the Americas were a crossroads of the world, long before the planting of European flags? The narrative of the Americas is a tapestry with threads that have been pulled, cut or ignored. The burning of the Mayan codices by Spanish bishops was an act of cultural lobotomy, destroying the written history of an entire hemisphere. What secrets went up in smoke? Did those books contain records of visitors from the East or West, or astronomical data that would upend our view of the ancient world? The resistance to changing the historical timeline is fierce. The Clovis First dogma held archaeology in a stranglehold for decades, blinding researchers to the evidence of older sites like Monteverde and White Sands. If science could be wrong about the timeline of human arrival for so long, What else remains hidden in the blind spots of our certainty? Consider the sheer scale of what we have yet to understand. The Amazon rainforest, once thought to be a pristine wilderness, is now revealing itself to be a garden cultivated by millions, with geoglyphs and earthworks emerging from the deforestation. The dark earth or terra preta created by these Amazonian civilizations suggests a mastery of agriculture that supported vast populations. From the copper mines of the Great Lakes, exploited thousands of years ago by unknown miners, to the stone spheres of Costa Rica, perfect in their geometry, the Americas are a continent of unanswered questions. As we gaze back at the vanished fleet of Abu Bakr II, vanishing into the Atlantic mist, we are reminded that history is not a fixed set of coordinates, but a shifting sea of possibilities. The footprints at White Sands prove we have been here longer than we thought. The Polynesian DNA in South America proves we were never truly isolated. And the ruins beneath the waves suggest that the map of the past was drawn by hands we have yet to identify. The story of the Americas is not a brief chapter beginning in 1492. It is an epic that stretches back into the twilight of the Ice Age, filled with explorers, dreamers, and civilizations that rose and fell in silence. These are the whispers that time could not silence, waiting for us to listen. The bones, the artifacts, the evidence, all disappeared into private collections, or as some whisper were quietly removed by institutions like the Smithsonian to conceal the truth. Why? Could the acknowledgement of a race of giants overturn our understanding of human evolution? Or is something more sinister at work? A deliberate erasure designed to maintain the simple linear history we have been taught. Step deeper into the cave's lore, and the mysteries only multiply. Archaeological digs in 1911 and 1912 uncovered not just human remains, but finely woven baskets, obsidian arrowheads, and tools that spoke of a culture far more sophisticated than that of wandering nomads. The Paiute legends describe these giants as fearsome warriors, 7 to 10 feet tall, with pale skin and fiery hair, who constructed boats from reeds to launch raids across the ancient lakes. Skeletons found here, some have claimed, displayed unusual, elongated skulls, perhaps a result of intentional deformation, or perhaps evidence of a distinct people. But where are those skeletons today? Contemporary reports from miners detail the unearthing of a mummified body with red hair, yet official records dismiss these accounts as exaggeration or misidentification. Conspiracy theories point to a government cover-up, suggesting that admitting to the existence of giants would force a complete rewrite of history, one that might conflict with biblical timelines or evolutionary dogma. While recent genetic analyses of ancient DNA from the cave have sought to debunk these myths, linking the remains to local Native American populations, the legends endure. Handprints twice the size of a modern man's, imprinted in guano and rock, demand an explanation. Were these the marks of giants, or were they clever forgeries? And if they were real, what cataclysm, flood, battle, or disease wiped them from the face of the earth, leaving only whispers in the wind? Now shift your gaze southward, across continents, to the sun-baked cliffs of Pedra Ferrada in Brazil, where another enigma strains the very limits of time. Here, in a remote corner of Piauí, archaeologists like Nied Guidon have unearthed stone flakes and tools that some date back as far as 50,000 years long before humans were supposed to have ever set foot in the Americas. The site, a UNESCO World Heritage Treasure since 1991, contains hearts, charcoal remnants, and quartzite artifacts that seem to cry out with evidence of human craftsmanship. Imagine someone chipping away at stone under an ancient sky, fashioning tools for survival in a world teeming with megafauna. But a storm of controversy swirls around these findings. Critics, after a visit in 1993, declared the stones to be geofacts, natural formations mistaken for man-made tools. The debate still rages. Are the fracture patterns intentional, shaped by skilled hands, or are they the random work of rivers and wind? Guidon's team counters by pointing to the rock art, paintings of hunters and animals that could be 30,000 years old, preserved in shelters that echo with the ghosts of prehistoric life. The puzzle of Pedra Ferrada is about more than just dates. It is about the entire human story. If people were here 40,000 to 56,000 years ago, how did they arrive? Did they follow coastal routes from Africa, hugging the shores in primitive boats? Or did they cross the Pacific from Australia? The site's layers suggest a long sequence of occupation, from hearths dated to 32,000 years ago to more recent tools, indicating continuous human presence. Yet mainstream archaeology remains hesitant, demanding more conclusive proof amidst accusations of unreliable data. Independent researchers argue that this dismissal stems from a deep-seated bias, a stubborn adherence to the Bering Strait model that simply cannot accommodate such ancient dates. What if Pedra Ferrada holds the key to multiple migrations, waves of people arriving from diverse origins, blending their cultures in ways we have yet to comprehend? The paintings, vivid in their red ochre, depict scenes of daily life, hunts, and rituals, but their age is fiercely contested. Could they be the oldest art in the Americas, or just a clever illusion of time? The site's isolation only deepens its allure, a place where the past feels palpably alive, urging us to question what other secrets lie buried in its red earth, waiting for a shovel to bring them to light. Now let your mind wander to the gypsum dunes of White Sands in New Mexico, where footprints frozen in time tell a story of pursuit and peril. These are no ordinary tracks. They are intermingled with those of mammoths and ground sloths, dated to between 21,000 and 23,000 years ago. Envision a group of ancient humans, perhaps a family, crossing a muddy lakebed, their every step preserved as if in amber. Children splash playfully, adults stride with purpose, and in one dramatic sequence, a lone traveler carries a child, their prints sinking deeper under the added weight. Nearby, the massive tracks of a mammoth intersect the human path, suggesting direct encounters with these colossal beasts. Were these people hunters stalking their prey across the Ice Age landscape? Or were they wanderers, fleeing some unseen danger? The footprints capture motion and emotion, quickened paces, slips in the mud, even a possible hunt where human tracks circle a sloth's trail, ending in what may have been a kill. The White Sands discovery, confirmed by radiocarbon dating of seeds in the sediment, has rewritten the timelines, pushing human presence back by 10,000 years. But the mysteries here extend beyond the dates. Some tracks show direct interactions with extinct animals, humans stepping over mammoth prints, or vice versa, painting a picture of a world where our ancestors coexisted with giants of another kind. Whispers of conspiracy emerge here too. Why were these prints discovered only in 2009, overlooked for so long? Do they point to lost technologies or forgotten knowledge? Recent studies have revealed even more. A woman's 2-mile journey carrying a child, apparently harassed by predators, her path a testament to sheer endurance. These prints are stories etched into the earth, raising endless questions. What drove these people? What languages did they speak? And how many other such trails lie hidden beneath the sands, waiting to unravel more enigmas? As we piece together these sites, Lovelock's vanished giants, Pedra Ferrada's contested tools, and White Sands' timeless steps, the past emerges not as a solved puzzle, but as a labyrinth of wonders. Climate shifts, massive floods, or cosmic events could have erased entire civilizations, leaving behind only these tantalizing fragments. Indigenous legends, like the Paiute tales of giants or Brazilian stories of ancient arrivals, blend with the science, suggesting that truths we have dismissed as myth may be rooted in reality. Governments and institutions, some claim, suppress findings to avoid chaos. Admitting to giants or ultra-ancient humans could shatter worldviews. Yet the evidence persists. Elongated skulls in Lovelock, debated but documented. Stone art in Pedra Ferrada, vivid and ancient. Footprints in White Sands, undeniable and profound. Each site invites us to ponder the cataclysms that may have swallowed societies, great floods reshaping continents, or ice ages burying secrets. What if these anomalies are not errors, but echoes of a forgotten epic, a time when humans navigated oceans, built wonders, and then vanished, leaving us to chase their shadows in the night? Let us walk into the steamy jungles of ancient Mesoamerica, where the very air seems to hum with the weight of secrets carved in stone and whispered through time. Here, the Olmec and Maya civilizations arose, not as fleeting sparks in a primitive world, but as blazing beacons of human ingenuity. Their legacies are etched into colossal heads, towering pyramids, and submerged sacred waters. These were not simply societies, they were architects of mysteries that continue to confound us, leaving behind riddles that defy the neat narratives of history. What compelled the Olmec to sculpt massive stone heads with features that suggest contact with distant continents? How did the Maya, with no metal tools or wheels, master the stars and construct cities that align with the cosmos? And why do their stories, so rich with wonder, carry echoes of extraterrestrial visitors or lost worlds that refuse to remain buried? Our journey begins with the Olmec, often called the mother culture of Mesoamerica, who thrived in the swampy lowlands of Mexico's Gulf Coast around 1600 to 400 years before the Common Era. Imagine a people who transformed muddy riverbanks into vibrant centers of culture, their hands shaping the earth into pyramids, and their minds crafting a society that laid the groundwork for every Mesoamerican civilization that followed. At sites like San Lorenzo and La Venta, they erected massive earthworks and a 30-foot-tall pyramid, not with iron or machinery, but with sheer will and a knowledge we still struggle to comprehend. Their most iconic creations are the colossal heads, 17 massive basalt sculptures, some standing over 11 feet high and weighing up to 50 tons. Each head, with its distinct helmet and enigmatic expression, seems to gaze through time itself, guarding secrets we cannot fully grasp. Were they portraits of revered rulers, gods, or something else entirely? The features' broad noses and full lips have fueled speculation for decades. Some see African traits, suggesting ancient voyages across the Atlantic, a theory championed by scholars like Ivan van Sertima. Others whisper of extraterrestrial influence, pointing to the precision of the carvings and their immense scale as evidence of otherworldly guidance, a notion popularized by Erich von Däniken's ancient astronaut theories. The Olmec were not just sculptors, they were innovators. They developed a system of writing, Olmec hieroglyphs, a proto-script that remains undeciphered, hinting at a complexity that rivals the later Mayan codices. Their society was stratified, with artisans, farmers, and a ruling class that orchestrated religious rituals and vast trade networks stretching across Mesoamerica. They harvested rubber from tree sap, earning them the name rubber people, and used it to craft balls for a ceremonial game played on stone courts, a tradition that would echo through later cultures. This game was far more than mere sport, it was a cosmic ritual. Its heavy rubber ball, weighing up to 9 pounds, symbolized celestial bodies or the eternal struggle between life and death. It is said that the losers often faced sacrifice, their blood offered to appease the gods. The Olmec's prosperity was built on trade, with their rubber, jade, and obsidian flowing to distant regions. Yet their decline around 400 years before the Common Era remains a mystery. Was it environmental collapse, internal conflict, or something more cataclysmic? Their cities were abandoned, swallowed by the jungle, leaving behind only their stone sentinels that continue to challenge our understanding. Now we shift to the Maya, whose civilization stretched across the Yucatan Peninsula and Guatemala, weaving a tapestry of city-states that flourished from the pre-classic period, around 2,000 years before the Common Era, to their peak in the Classic period, roughly 250 to 900 years after. Picture Tikal, a metropolis of up to 100,000 souls, its skyline pierced by pyramids that reached for the heavens, their steps stained with the blood of sacred rituals. The Maya were not just builders, they were astronomers, mathematicians, and storytellers who wove their knowledge into every stone. Their long-count calendar, a marvel of precision, tracked time across millennia, sparking modern myths of a world-ending event in 2012, a profound misunderstanding of their cyclical perception of time. The calendar's next cycle, the 15th Baktun, will not arrive until March 26, 247, a testament to their extraordinary foresight. At Palenque, the Temple of Inscription stands as a monument to this sophistication. Its limestone slab is covered in glyphs that recount the life of King Pakal, who ruled for 68 years, one of the longest reigns in history. The tomb's carvings, discovered in 1952, depict Pakal in a pose that some interpret as a man piloting a spacecraft, fueling theories of extraterrestrial contact. Erich von Däniken argued the figure's posture, surrounded by intricate symbols, resembles an astronaut at a control panel, a claim dismissed by scholars but persistent in popular imagination. The Mayas' astronomical prowess lends a certain credence to such speculation. They meticulously tracked the movements of Venus, timing their wars to its cycles, and aligned their pyramids with constellations, as seen at Chichen Itza, where the El Castillo pyramid casts a serpent's shadow during the equinoxes. Were these alignments purely practical, aiding agriculture, or did they reflect a deeper cosmic connection, a belief that their cities were mirrors of the heavens? The Maya society was a complex web of kings, priests, artisans, and farmers, with women like Pakal's mother wielding significant power in religious and political spheres. Their writing system, a blend of logograms and phonetic glyphs, recorded everything from royal genealogies to celestial events on deerskin and tree bark. Tragically, Spanish priests burned most of these codices in the 16th century, leaving only stone inscriptions to tell their story. The city of Copan, with its intricate sculptures, and Calakmul, a rival to Tikal, reveal a world of constant warfare, where capturing enemy rulers for sacrifice was the ultimate offering to gods like Itzamna, the creator deity, or the jaguar god of the underworld. The ball game, inherited from the Olmec, was central here too, played in sacred courts, where the outcome might decide life or death, echoing myths of the hero twins who faced the gods in the underworld, Xibalba. The Mayas' cenotes, natural sinkholes in the Yucatan, add another layer of enigma. These were not just water sources, they were portals to Xibalba, where rituals and sacrifices took place. Divers in the Sac-Actum cave system have discovered submerged altars, scorched surfaces, and miniature deity statues, suggesting that ceremonies were conducted in places where sunlight never reached. At Cenote Holtun, near Chichen Itza, geophysical radar has revealed a vast water-filled cave directly beneath the El Castillo pyramid, hinting that the Maya deliberately built their sacred sites atop these gateways to the underworld. Some skeletons found in cenotes, like those in Hoyo Negro, date back 12,000 years, predating the Maya and suggesting these caves were used for millennia, first as dry shelters, then as flooded sanctuaries as sea levels rose after the Ice Age. Were these intentional descents into the underworld, or evidence of a forgotten people who lived there before the waters came? The collapse of the Mayas' classic period around 900 years after the Common Era is one of history's great mysteries. Cities like Tikal, Palenque, and Copan were abandoned, their stone plazas reclaimed by the jungle. Was it drought, as some climate studies suggest, with tree ring data pointing to prolonged dry spells? Or was it war, disease, or overpopulation that strained their resources? Some propose a more fantastical cause, intervention by extraterrestrial beings who guided their rise and then departed, a theory fueled by the spacecraft-like carvings and the Mayas' uncanny astronomical knowledge. Others see echoes of a lost civilization, perhaps Atlantis, in their concentric city designs and advanced mathematics, as Plato's descriptions of a sunken utopia resonate with submerged ruins found off the Caribbean coast. These civilizations, Olmec and Maya, were not isolated. Their trade networks stretched across Mesoamerica, their ideas influencing the Zapotec, Teotihuacan, and Aztec. But their mysteries linger from the Olmec's African-like heads to the Maya's star-aligned cities and vanished codices. Why were their achievements downplayed for so long? Did colonial powers suppress their legacy to justify conquest? Or does the truth lie in the artifacts themselves, the tools, glyphs, and cenotes that hint at connections to distant lands, or even other worlds? Step into a world where the sun and moon are not mere celestial bodies, but gods immortalized in stone, where cities pulse with the rhythms of sacrifice and trade, and where the echoes of lost empires whisper secrets that defy our comprehension. In the heart of ancient Mesoamerica, beyond the jungles of the Maya and the Olmec's colossal heads, four civilizations, Teotihuacan, Zapotec, Toltec, and Aztec, rose to sculpt a legacy that challenges the very boundaries of time. Each built wonders that rivaled the greatest of the Old World, yet their stories are laced with enigmas. Why did a thriving metropolis burn itself to ash? How did a mountain people craft temples that could withstand earthquakes? What drove warriors to forge empires, only to vanish into legend? And could their sacred symbols, from feathered serpents to cosmic stones, conceal connections to a forgotten global past? First, we stand in the shadow of Teotihuacan, a city so vast it was named the place where the gods were created. Emerging around 100 years before the Common Era in the fertile valley of Mexico, it swelled into a metropolis of 125,000 to 200,000 souls by 25 to 500 years after. Walk its central artery, the Avenue of the Dead, and feel the weight of history. To one side rises the Pyramid of the Sun, the third largest pyramid in the world, its base rivaling that of Giza. To the other, the Pyramid of the Moon gazes over a city planned with breathtaking geometric precision. This was no random settlement, but a grid of neighborhoods, elite palaces, and apartment complexes for laborers and artisans, all adorned with murals of jaguars, gods, and cosmic battles. Teotihuacan thrived on trade, its markets bustling with obsidian, a volcanic glass shaped into razor-sharp blades and polished mirrors, exported across Mesoamerica. The city's wealth was fueled by nearby mines, but its heart was its religion. Human sacrifices, their hearts offered to the gods, stained the pyramid steps, often accompanied by pulque, a potent agave liquor used in rituals. Yet Teotihuacan harbors a mystery that chills the bones. Around 550 years after the Common Era, the city was systematically sacked and burned, not by foreign invaders, some believe, but by its own people. The charred remains of temples and palaces suggest a violent internal revolt, perhaps sparked by deep-seated inequality or a volcanic winter in 53-6 that crippled agriculture. By 700, the city was a ghost town, its streets silent, its wealth looted. Some whisper of a deeper cause, a cosmic event, perhaps a comet or meteor, foretold in the stars and murals, driving the population to madness, or a mass exodus. Others point to the city's celestial alignments. The Pyramid of the Sun faces the setting of the Pleiades, a constellation deeply tied to Mesoamerican cosmology. Could Teotihuacan have been a grand celestial observatory, its destruction linked to a prophecy that went unrecorded? The absence of written records leaves us guessing, but the ruins speak of a society that knew far more than we credit them for. Urban planners, astronomers, and priests who built a city to mirror the heavens, only to see it consumed by flames. High in the Oaxaca highlands, the Zapotec carved a different destiny. Their city of Monte Alban, perched like an eagle's nest overlooking the valley, emerged around 500 years before the Common Era. They reached their zenith in the Classic period, from around 200 to 900 years after. This was a theocracy, ruled by priests who wielded divine authority. Their temples and pyramids rose from mountains they had meticulously carved into terraces. Most Zapotec were farmers or artisans, living in cliffside dwellings, their lives woven into the cycles of maize and ritual. At Monte Alban, stelae carved with glyphs and figures hint at a writing system, though it was less developed than that of the Maya. The city's ball courts, like those of the Olmec, hosted games where life and death hung in the balance, the ball's movement echoing cosmic struggles. Yet around 900, Monte Alban was abandoned, its people dispersing without a clear explanation. Was it drought, as tree ring data suggests, or internal strife? Some speculate a spiritual crisis, a loss of faith in the priestly class, drove them away. Others point to the site's astronomical alignments, suggesting the Zapotec, like their neighbors, built their city to commune with the stars. Could a celestial event, or a misread omen, have signaled the end? The Toltec, rising in the post-classic period from around 900 to 122 years after the Common Era, filled the void left by Teotihuacan's fall. From their capital at Tula, they forged an empire that dominated central Mexico, their influence stretching as far as the Mayas' Chichen Itza. The Toltec were warriors, their art depicting feathered serpent gods like Quetzalcoatl, who symbolized wisdom and creation. Tula's pyramids and colossal statues, known as Atlanteans, stand as testaments to their formidable power. Yet their decline is shrouded in mystery. By 1122, Tula was abandoned, possibly due to drought, revolts, or invasions by northern tribes. Legends speak of a Toltec king who was exiled and promised to return, a myth that would later haunt the Aztec when Cortés arrived, mistaken for Quetzalcoatl himself. Some researchers see Toltec influence in distant lands. Similarities in the architecture of Chichen Itza suggest cultural exchange, but could their reach have been even broader? Fringe theories propose Toltec voyages across the Pacific, their serpent motifs echoing Polynesian designs. While no hard evidence supports this, the precision of their stonework and the spread of their iconography raise questions about their connections to a wider world. The Aztec, emerging in the 1200s, built the grandest empire of Mesoamerica, their capital Tenochtitlan, a marvel built on Lake Texcoco. Founded in 1325 after a prophecy, an eagle on a cactus devouring a snake, they created a city of floating gardens, or chinampas, that fed hundreds of thousands. By 1428, their triple alliance with Texcoco and Tlacopan dominated the region, ruled by a monarch who claimed divine descent. Huitzilopochtli, their war god, demanded blood, and the Aztec obliged, sacrificing thousands on the steps of the Templo Maya. Their sunstone, a 24-ton monolith, maps cosmic cycles, its carvings hinting at a fifth world doomed to end in earthquakes. Could this reflect memories of a past cataclysm, perhaps tied to Atlantis-like legends of a sunken world? The Aztecs' writing, derived from Zapotec glyphs, recorded their history on fig tree bark, but the Spanish conquest destroyed most of these records, leaving only stone inscriptions to tell their tale. The Aztecs' fall in 1521 to Cortés was not just a military defeat, but a cultural erasure. Their codices were burned, their gods demonized, yet their achievements, canals that rivaled Venice, astronomy that could predict eclipses, suggest a sophistication that challenges Eurocentric narratives. Conspiracy theories swell. Did the Spanish suppress evidence of Aztec knowledge to justify colonization? Some claim the sunstone encodes secrets of a lost technology, its concentric rings echoing Plato's Atlantis. Others point to similarities with Egyptian sun worship, suggesting ancient transatlantic contact. The Aztecs' chinampas, sustainable even today, hint at an ecological wisdom that modern cities lack. Why then were their contributions marginalized, their cities reduced to savage ruins in colonial accounts? These civilizations, Teotihuacan's cosmic grid, the Zapotec's mountain sanctuaries, the Toltec's warrior legacy, the Aztec's island empire, all share a thread of mystery, their sudden ends. Climate data points to droughts, but murals and myths suggest deeper fears of comets, the wrath of gods, or prophecies of collapse. Fringe theories propose external influences, from extraterrestrial guidance in Teotihuacan's alignments to survivors of a lost continent, shaping Aztec cosmology. The absence of records fuels speculation, But the ruins themselves, the pyramids, glyphs and stones, whisper of a past where humans touched the divine, only to be silenced by time, conquest or something stranger still. As we trace their steps, we are left to wonder, were these societies isolated, or were they nodes in a forgotten global network, their secrets buried to preserve a simpler history? Imagine standing on a barren ridge in Peru's Supi Valley, where the sun scorches the earth, rain is a distant memory, and rivers carve life from desolation. Here, in a land that seems hostile to human ambition, the Norte Chico civilization defied all odds, building one of the world's earliest cities over 5,000 years ago. Further south, the Chavin wove their faith into stone and shadow-filled tunnels. The Nazca etched cryptic designs into the desert floor, and the Inca forged an empire that stretched from mountain peaks to the sea. These Andean civilizations, Norte, Chico, Chavin, Nazca and Inca, did not merely survive. They thrived in landscapes that would have broken lesser spirits, leaving behind wonders that challenge our assumptions about the past. What secrets drove them to master the impossible? Could their works, mounds older than those of Egypt, lines visible only from the sky, roads spanning thousands of miles, hint at a knowledge we have lost, or connections to realms beyond our own? We begin with Norte Chico, a name that belies its grandeur, flourishing from around 3700 to 1800 years before the Common Era. In the arid valleys of northern Peru, where rain shadows and trade winds create one of the driest regions on Earth, this pre-ceramic society built Caral, a city so ancient it rivals Old Kingdom Egypt. Picture a sprawling complex of 6-stepped pyramids, circular plazas, and stone structures, all crafted without the aid of pottery or metal tools. The people of Norte Chico were initially maritime, harvesting fish and seafood, but their true genius lay in irrigation. They channeled the melted snow from the Andes through the Fortaleza, Pativilca, and Supe rivers, transforming the desert into fertile fields. By the second millennium before the Common Era, Caral was among the most densely populated places on the planet, its inhabitants weaving cotton nets and trading with distant communities. Yet no art survives, no carvings, no pottery, only massive earthworks, some over 60 feet tall, that stand as silent witnesses. Why did they build without adornment? Was it pure pragmatism or a spiritual choice? Their faith poured into the earth itself. Their decline around 1800 years before the Common Era is a mystery, perhaps driven by drought or migration to greener lands, but their irrigation techniques spread, seeding the future cultures of the Andes. Now journey to the highlands, where the Chavin culture emerged around 900 years before the Common Era, marking the early horizon. At Chavin de Huintad, over 10,000 feet above sea level, they constructed a temple complex that feels like a portal to another world. Envision a labyrinth of underground tunnels, their walls carved with snarling jaguars, serpents and gods with human-animal faces. These corridors, ventilated by stone ducts, were not just architectural feats, they were stages for intense rituals, possibly fueled by hallucinogenic plants like the San Pedro cactus. The Lenzon, a monolithic granite pillar, stands at the heart of the complex, depicting a deity with fangs and claws, its gaze piercing the darkness. Above ground, stone statues and a solar observatory near Lama Caral hint at a deep astronomical knowledge, used to track solstices with eerie precision. Tucuchin. By 2,000 years before the Common Era, the Chavin had faded, perhaps due to environmental shifts or cultural fragmentation, but their art, gold and copper metal works, intricate reliefs, suggests a society in communion with the cosmos. Some speculate these tunnels were psychic gateways, designed to connect priests with divine forces or even extraterrestrial entities, a theory fueled by the otherworldly iconography. Did the Chavin possess secrets of the stars, or were their visions induced by plants, not aliens? Descend to the desert plains of southern Peru, where the Nazca culture, thriving from 100 to 800 years after the Common Era, left marks that defy rational explanation. The Nazca lines etched into the arid soil stretch for miles, gigantic figures of monkeys, spiders, hummingbirds, and geometric shapes, visible only from the air. Imagine standing atop a hill, gazing at a 400-foot condor etched with such precision it seems impossible without aerial guidance. Created by removing dark surface stones to reveal the lighter earth beneath, these geoglyphs have sparked endless debate. Were they offerings to the gods, maps of irrigation systems, or astronomical calendars? Erik von Däniken famously proposed they were landing strips for alien spacecraft, a theory dismissed by scholars but persistent in its allure. The Nazca also built puquios, underground aqueducts that carried water across the desert without evaporation, some of which are still functioning today. Their pottery, vibrant with images of warriors and deities, suggests a martial culture. Yet their decline by 800 remains obscure, perhaps due to drought, overfarming, or invasion. The lines endure untouched by time, whispering questions. Were they meant for eyes in the sky or for gods who never answered? Finally ascend to the peaks of the Andes, where the Inca forged the largest pre-Columbian empire, Tawantinsuyu, from the 1200s to the 1500s. From their capital at Cusco, 10,000 feet high, they unified regions from Colombia to Chile, under leaders like Pachacuti, the Sapa Inca. Picture Machu Picchu, a citadel perched on sheer cliffs, its stones cut so precisely they fit together without mortar, defying earthquakes. The Incas' road system, stretching 25,000 miles, rivaled that of Rome, with runners relaying messages at speeds of 140 miles a day. Their terraces carved into mountainsides created microclimates for maize and potatoes, fed by intricate irrigation systems. The Coricancha, a temple to the sun god Inti, gleamed with gold plates, its walls aligned to capture the rays of the solstice. The Inca had no writing but used the quipu, knotted strings for numerical records, encoding data with a complexity that continues to baffle modern scholars. Their oral tradition preserved plays like Ollantay, blending theatre with reed music. Yet they were also warlike, with armies of 200,000 conquering and assimilating neighboring peoples, spreading the Quechua language and their sun cult. By 1532 the Spanish conquest ended their reign, but not before disease and internal strife had weakened them. The Incas' mysteries are manifold. Machu Picchu, often called the Lost City, was never truly lost. Local Quechua knew of it, but its purpose remains debated. Was it a royal retreat, a spiritual sanctuary, or a fortress hidden from invaders? Some fringe theories suggest it was a cosmic observatory, its stones aligned with ley lines or energy fields, a notion tied to New Age beliefs about Andean mysticism. The quipu, undeciphered beyond its numerical values, might hold narratives we cannot yet read. Could it encode astronomical or even extraterrestrial knowledge? The Incas' terraces and roads suggest a mastery of geography unmatched in their time. Yet their rapid fall to a handful of conquistadors raises questions. Did they succumb to smallpox, as historical records indicate, or was there a deeper betrayal, perhaps one foretold in their myths? Some speculate the Inca hid their gold not out of greed but to protect sacred knowledge, with the legends of El Dorado rooted in their lost treasures. These Andean cultures, Norte Chico's silent mounds, Chavin's mystic tunnels, the Nazca's skyward lines, the Inca's mountain empire, all share a thread of defiance against nature's harshest landscapes. Their achievements rivaled those of Mesopotamia or Egypt, yet their stories were long overshadowed by colonial narratives. Conspiracy theories abound. Were the Nazca lines signals for extraterrestrials, as von Däniken claimed? Did the Inca inherit knowledge from a lost civilization, perhaps Atlantis, as their precise stonework and concentric city layouts echo Plato's tales? Why were Norte Chico's earthworks built without art, as if to hide their purpose? Modern discoveries, geoglyphs found via satellite, quipu analyzed with AI hint at untapped secrets. The Andes hold more than ruins. They guard questions about human potential, cosmic connections, and a past that might link to drowned cities or forgotten voyages. Close your eyes and imagine a vast floodplain along the Mississippi River, where a city rises from the earth, its towering mounds casting long shadows over a landscape alive with ritual and trade. This is Cahokia, the heart of the Mississippian culture, a beacon of complexity in ancient North America. Now shift your gaze to the turquoise waters of the Caribbean, where the Taino and Caribbeeples crafted vibrant societies on islands, kissed by trade winds, only to face the first devastating waves of European conquest. These civilizations, Mississippian, ancestral Pueblo, Taino and Carib, wove a rich tapestry of human achievement across North America and the Caribbean, their stories brimming with intrigue. Why did a thriving metropolis vanish in a heartbeat? What secrets lie buried in cliffside dwellings? And could the submerged stones of the Bahamas whisper of a lost world, perhaps Atlantis itself? These are tales not of conquest, but of resilience of cultures that flourished against all odds, leaving behind questions that echo through time. Let us begin at Cahokia, in what is now Illinois, where the Mississippian culture reached its zenith around 1200 years after the Common Era. Picture a city of 20,000, the largest in North America for 6 centuries, its skyline dominated by Monk's Mound, a massive earthwork larger than the Great Pyramid of Egypt at its base. This was no simple village, but a hub of power, its plazas bustling with traders exchanging copper, shells and maize. The Mississippians, named for the river that sustained them, built dozens of smaller mounds, some for burials, others for ceremonies. Their society was governed by a centralized elite of priests and chiefs. Their game of chunky, rolling disc-shaped stones and hurling spears to predict their landing drew huge crowds, forging alliances with neighboring villages. Yet around 1400, Cahokia was abandoned, its people scattering as warfare intensified and the Little Ice Age chilled the land, making farming precarious. Some whisper of a darker cause, a societal collapse driven by overpopulation or an unrecorded prophecy. Fringe theories rooted in 19th century speculation suggest the mounds were built by a lost race, perhaps the biblical lost tribes of Israel, as Mormon scholars once claimed. The mound's precise alignments with the solstices hint at a deep astronomical knowledge, raising questions. Were they temples to the stars or markers for a forgotten cataclysm? Travel southwest to the Four Corners region, where the ancestral Pueblo people, once misnamed the Anasazi, crafted a civilization in the arid deserts of Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona. By 750 years after the Common Era, they had transitioned from basket-making nomads to builders of urban centers, their roads linking communities in a vast trade network. At Chaco Canyon, they erected Pueblo Bonito, a great house of multi-story stone rooms that housed elite families. Its kivas, circular underground chambers, hosted rituals under starlit skies. By 1150, they migrated to Mesa Verde, carving cliff dwellings into canyon walls, some capable of holding 150 people. These intricate homes, with timber roofs and plastered walls, suggest a society adept at defying the desert's harshness through irrigation and collective labor. Yet by 1300, Mesa Verde was deserted, its people moving south, possibly driven by drought or raids, as tree ring data and archaeological evidence suggest. Some speculate a spiritual crisis, with kivas abandoned mid-construction, or even extraterrestrial influence, as New Age theorists claim Chaco's alignments mirror cosmic patterns. Or even extraterrestrial influence, as New Age theorists claim Chaco's alignments mirror cosmic patterns. The Hopi, descendants of the Pueblo, preserve oral traditions of a great migration, but what truly prompted it? Were the cliff dwellings a last refuge, or a deliberate retreat to protect sacred knowledge? Now sail to the Caribbean, where the Taino and Arawak-speaking people thrived on islands like Hispaniola and Puerto Rico by the 1100s. Originating near Venezuela's Orinoco River, they built complex societies led by caciques, or chiefs, who oversaw economies based on fishing and agriculture. Their villages, with circular plazas and thatched homes, buzzed with trade cotton, tobacco and manioc flowing between islands. Ball courts similar to those of the Maya hosted ceremonial games, suggesting cultural exchange across the sea. The Taínos' spiritual world revolved around Zimi's carved figures embodying their gods, their rituals blending dance and tobacco-induced trances. When Christopher Columbus landed in 1492, he met the Taíno, describing them as peaceful yet noting their gold ornaments, a detail that sparked European greed. By the 1600s, disease and enslavement had decimated them, their culture nearly erased, yet their legacy persists in words like hammock and canoe, and in archaeological finds of Zimi statues. Some theorists propose Taíno myths of seafaring ancestors point to pre-Columbian contact with Mesoamerica, or even Africa, as their art shares motifs with distant cultures. Enter the Caribs, or Kalinago, a fiercer group who arrived in the Lesser Antilles from South America, displacing Taíno communities by the 1400s. Known for their warrior ethos, they raided Taíno villages, capturing resources, and according to some accounts, women. Though these reports may reflect European bias, their society, less centralized than the Taínos, relied on fishing, cassava farming, and swift canoes that dominated Caribbean waters. Their spiritual practices, rich with shamanic rituals, revered spirits tied to the sea and sky. When Columbus encountered them, he painted them as cannibals, a likely exaggeration to justify conquest. The Caribs resisted Spanish incursions fiercely, but disease and violence eventually reduced their numbers. Their descendants endure in Dominica, preserving oral histories that hint at ancient voyages across the Atlantic. Could these tales, like those of the Taíno, suggest contact with distant lands, perhaps Africa or Polynesia, long before European sails appeared? The Caribbean holds a deeper enigma, the Bimini Road, a half-kilometer stretch of rectangular stones off the Bahamas, discovered in 1968. These flat-aligned blocks, some cut with precision, resemble an ancient causeway. Geologists argue they are natural limestone formations, but independent researchers see deliberate design angles, too uniform, stones too neatly fitted. Some link it to Atlantis, citing Plato's description of a sunken city with concentric rings and positing the Bahamas as its remnant. Sonar scans near Andros Island and Cayo Cayo Reef have revealed more anomalies, geometric shapes buried under the sea, untouched by divers. Could these be relics of a coastal civilization drowned by rising seas after the Ice Age? Fringe theories suggest a Caribbean hub, connecting Mesoamerica, Africa, and even Europe, with ancient mariners navigating favorable currents. The silence following these discoveries, stalled excavations, defunded projects fuel speculation of a cover-up. Why the hesitation to explore? Does the possibility of a pre-Columbian network threaten established narratives? These civilizations, Cahokia's mounds, the Pueblos' cliff homes, the Taíno and Caribe island cultures, reveal a North America and Caribbean far from empty before Columbus. Their achievements, astronomical alignments, trade networks, resilient societies, rival those of Mesoamerica, yet their stories were sidelined by colonial accounts. The mysteries persist. Cahokia's sudden collapse, Mesa Verde's abandoned kivas, the submerged Caribbean stones. Were they isolated or part of a broader web, their ball courts and myths echoing Mesoamerican or even African traditions? Conspiracy theories, from lost tribes to Atlantis, thrive in the gaps, suggesting a knowledge suppressed to uphold a Eurocentric discovery myth. Umanio Sinkare was older than time at Setfaniad's Mask and Sumba. Modern finds, DNA linking Caribbean peoples to South America, sonar hinting at sunken cities keep the questions alive. As we trace their faded paths, we wonder, did these cultures know of each other, or of lands beyond the horizon, their secrets buried not by time but by those who wrote the history we inherited? Envision a stormy sea, waves crashing against fragile boats as a small band of ancient mariners clings to hope. navigating by stars and ice toward an unknown shore. These are not the polished galleons of the age of exploration, but crude vessels of animal hide and wood, carrying people from a distant Europe to the Americas thousands of years before Columbus ever dreamed of sailing west. The idea seems fantastical, yet traces of such voyages, stone tools, cryptic carvings, and whispered legends linger in the archaeological record, challenging the narrative that the Americas were untouched by Old World feet until 1492. The story of early European contact, from Viking adventurers to the controversial Solutrean hypothesis, and even the enigmatic tales of Celtic monks and Templar knights, is a labyrinth of clues and questions. Did these travelers cross the Atlantic in prehistory? Could their journeys have left marks on the cultures of the New World? And why do these possibilities, so rich with mystery, face such resistance from those who guard the gates of history? Let us start with the Vikings, the one undeniable instance of pre-Columbian European contact. Around the year 1000, Norse explorers from Greenland, led by Leif Erikson, landed on a verdant coast they called Vinland, likely modern-day Newfoundland. At Lanso Meadows, archaeologists uncovered a Norse settlement, long houses, iron nails, and a bronze pin dated to precisely this period. The sagas, oral tales later written down, describe voyages to a land of wild grapes and timber, where the Norse traded with locals they called Skrælings, possibly ancestors of the Bearthuk or Inuit. But the settlement was short-lived, abandoned within a decade, perhaps due to harsh winters or conflicts with indigenous peoples. The sagas hint at more encounters with strange customs, skirmishes, and fleeting alliances. Why did the Norse not stay? Were tales of Vinland suppressed by medieval Europe, which was uninterested in a distant land, or did the Church, wary of pagan explorations, bury their stories? The site's discovery in 1960 shook the academic world, proving Europeans reached the Americas 5 centuries before Columbus, yet it raises deeper questions. Were the Vikings the first, or merely the first we can confirm? Now dive into the far more contentious Solutrean hypothesis, a theory that pushes the timeline back to the Ice Age, some 20,000 years ago. Picture hunters from what is now France and Spain, masters of stone craftsmanship, following seals and fish along the edge of Atlantic ice sheets in skin-covered boats. The Solutreans, named for their distinctive tools, created thin, leaf-shaped blades with remarkable precision. The similar tools found at sites like Meadowcroft Rock Shelter in Pennsylvania and the Topper site in South Carolina date to between 16,000 and 20,000 years ago, predating the Clovis culture long thought to be the Americas first. These artifacts, with their fluted points and fine flaking, bear an eerie resemblance to Solutrean technology, sparking a theory: could these ancient Europeans have crossed the Atlantic, hugging the ice bridge to settle in the New World? Genetic studies complicate the picture. Native American DNA shows strong Asian ancestry, but some argue for rare European markers, like haplogroup X, found in both regions. Critics dismiss the hypothesis, citing the vast ocean distance, over 1,600 miles, and the lack of direct evidence, like boats or settlements. Yet the tools persist, their craftsmanship a silent challenge to the Bering Strait monopoly. If true, the Solutreans would rewrite the story of human migration, suggesting the Americas were a crossroads long before recorded history. Beyond archaeology, whispers of other European contacts emerge from legend and anomaly. Consider the tales of Saint Brendan, a 6th-century Irish monk said to have sailed west in a currach, a hide-covered boat, seeking the land of the blessed. His saga, the Marti Navigation Sancti Brendani, describes islands with strange landscapes, fiery mountains, and crystal pillars, interpreted by some as the Caribbean or North America. In West Virginia, the Grave Creek stone, discovered in 1838, bears marks some claim resemble Ogham, an ancient Celtic script. Skeptics call it a hoax, but believers see it as evidence of Irish monks or earlier Celtic explorers reaching American shores. The stone's inscriptions, if genuine, would suggest contact as early as the first millennium. Yet its whereabouts are unknown, lost or hidden, fueling speculation of suppression. Why would such artifacts vanish? Could medieval Europe, dominated by the Church, have silenced tales of pre-Christian voyages to maintain control over exploration narratives? The mysteries deepen with the Knights Templar, a medieval order whose wealth and secrecy have sparked endless theories. By the 1300s, the Templars faced persecution in Europe, their treasures rumored to have been spirited away. Some propose they fled to the Americas, pointing to the Newport Tower in Rhode Island, a stone structure with architectural echoes of Templar churches. Carbon dating places its construction around the 1400s, but some argue it predates Columbus, a relic of Templar voyages. The Oak Island money pit off Nova Scotia adds fuel, a mysterious shaft discovered in 1795, filled with booby traps and cryptic inscriptions. Theories suggest the Templars hid holy relics or gold here, perhaps after learning of the Americas from Norse contacts or ancient maps. No definitive evidence links Oak Island to the Templars, but the site's complexity, wooden platforms, coconut fiber from distant tropics, defies easy explanation. Could these be traces of a secret mission, suppressed to protect sacred knowledge or colonial claims? These stories, Viking settlements, Solutrean tools, Celtic monks' Templar treasures, weave a tapestry of possibility, each thread tugging at the edges of official history. The Vikings prove contact was possible, but the Solutreans push the timeline into prehistory, challenging the Bering-centric narrative. Celtic and Templar tales, though speculative, draw on artifacts and legends that refuse to fade. The Piri-Reis map, drawn in 1513, shows the Americas coast with startling accuracy, hinting at pre-Columbian knowledge. Some claim it draws on older sources, perhaps Phoenician or even earlier, suggesting Europeans knew of the New World long before Columbus. Native American oral traditions, like those of the Mi'kmaq, speak of pale-skinned visitors from the sea, their boats unlike any canoe. Were these memories of Norse, Celts, or others lost to time? Why did these ideas face such resistance? The Solutrean hypothesis, for instance, stirs controversy not just for its archaeological gaps, but for its implications, suggesting Europeans contributed to Native American ancestry risks undermining indigenous narratives. The Church in medieval times may have quashed tales of pagan or heretical voyages to maintain its authority. Modern academia, bound by rigorous standards, often dismisses anomalies as hoaxes or misinterpretations. Yet the dismissal can feel selective. Artifacts like the Grave Creek stone vanish, excavations stall, and theories are labeled fringe as if history fears its own complexity. Conspiracy theorists argue a deliberate cover-up, claiming governments or institutions suppress evidence to uphold a Eurocentric discovery myth centered on Columbus. Recent finds, DNA studies hinting at transatlantic gene flow, underwater scans revealing structures off Newfoundland, keep the questions alive. As we sift through these clues, from Viking nails to cryptic stones, we confront a past that refuses to stay simple. Were the Americas a destination for ancient Europeans, their journeys erased by time, conquest or design? Did Solutreans brave the ice, or did Templars hide their secrets in American soil? The evidence is scattered, tools, sagas, maps, but it whispers of a world more connected than we imagine, where oceans were not barriers, but highways. These stories, whether fact or legend, urge us to look beyond the textbooks, to hear the voices of those who sailed into the unknown, their footsteps perhaps still etched in the sands of a forgotten shore. Drift across the vast Pacific, where the ocean stretches like a canvas of secrets, its currents whispering tales of ancient voyagers who dared to sail beyond the horizon. Long before European ships charted the Americas, mariners from Asia and Polynesia may have crossed these waters, leaving behind traces in pottery, crops, and legends that challenged the isolation of the New World. Imagine Chinese junks gliding through uncharted seas, Polynesian canoes riding swells to distant shores, and artifacts that hint at connections too profound to be mere coincidence. The story of early contact from Asia and Polynesia is not one of conquest, but of exploration, trade, and cultural echoes that ripple through time. What drove these peoples to brave the ocean's depths? Could their voyages have shaped the Americas in ways we have yet to fully grasp? And why do these possibilities, so tantalizingly close to proof, remain shrouded in doubt? Let us first sail to the shores of ancient China, where the Ming dynasty's Admiral Zheng He commanded fleets of unparalleled grandeur in the early 1400s. Picture treasure ships, some over 400 feet long, dwarfing Columbus's modest caravels, their decks teeming with sailors, scholars, and trade goods. Between 1414–1415 and Lame, Zheng He led 7 expeditions across the Indian Ocean, reaching as far as East Africa and Arabia. His ships carried silk, porcelain, and knowledge, forging connections across continents. But could they have ventured further across the Pacific, to the Americas? The Kang-Nido map, drawn in Korea in 1402, shows landmasses resembling the Americas' west coast, with details too precise for mere guesswork. Some scholars argue this map, based on Chinese sources, suggests a knowledge of the New World before Columbus. In Ecuador, at Valdivia, archaeologists uncovered pottery from 3,000 years before the Common Era, its Jomon-style designs eerily similar to those of ancient Japan. How did these ceramics, so distinct from local traditions, appear in South America? Were they carried by Japanese fishermen caught in the Kuroshio Current, or by deliberate explorers? The evidence grows stranger. Chinese texts from the 5th century mention Fusang, a land far to the east across the ocean, described as a place of mulberry trees and red-skinned people. Some interpret Fusang as Mexico, where agave plants resemble mulberries and indigenous peoples fit the description. Chinese anchors' heavy stone discs have been found off California's coast, dated to centuries before European contact. These could be remnants of shipwrecks or intentional markers, but their presence defies the narrative of an isolated Americas. Fringe theories, like those of Gavin Menzies in his book on 1421, The Year China Discovered America, propose that Zheng He's fleets reached the New World, leaving behind DNA technology, and even chickens, pre-Columbian remains of which match Asian breeds. Mainstream scholars dismiss Menzies for a lack of direct evidence, but genetic studies of Native American populations show traces of Austronesian markers, hinting at ancient Asian contact. Could Chinese navigators, with their advanced compasses and star charts, have crossed the Pacific, only for their records to be lost in the Ming dynasty's later isolationism? Now let us ride the waves with the Polynesians, master navigators who conquered the Pacific's vastness in double-hulled canoes, guided by stars, winds, and ocean swells. By 1200 years after the Common Era, they had settled islands from Hawaii to Easter Island, their voyages spanning thousands of miles. Their oral traditions speak of wayfinding, a skill so precise it rivals modern navigation. But did they reach the Americas? The sweet potato, a South American crop, appeared in Polynesia by 1,000 years after the Common Era, its name, Kumara, echoing Quechua words from Peru. Genetic studies confirm a pre-Columbian exchange. Polynesian DNA markers appear in South American populations, particularly among the Mapuche of Chile, dated to around 700 years after the Common Era. Thor Heyerdahl's Kon-Tiki expedition in 1947 proved such voyages were possible, his balsa raft sailing from Peru to Polynesia. But could Polynesians have gone the other way, landing in South America? Archaeological clues deepen the mystery. In Chile, chicken bones dated to the 1300s bear DNA that matches Polynesian breeds, suggesting trade or settlement. The stone statues on Easter Island, the Moai, share a stoic grandeur with Olmec colossal heads, their monolithic forms prompting speculation of shared cultural roots. Some propose a lost Pacific civilization, Mu, a mythical continent akin to Atlantis, whose survivors influenced both Polynesia and the Americas. The Moai's construction, requiring immense labor and engineering, mirrors Andean stonework like that of the Inca. Could Polynesian navigators have brought tools, ideas, or even people to South America, blending their traditions with local cultures? Linguistic parallels, like Polynesian words for canoes resembling Andean terms, add to the intrigue, yet mainstream archaeology hesitates, citing insufficient evidence of permanent settlements. The sweet potato and chicken bones, however, stand as tangible links, defying easy dismissal. The questions multiply when we consider the broader implications. If Chinese or Polynesian voyagers reached the Americas, what did they leave behind? In Peru, textiles from 2,000 years before the Common Era show weaving techniques akin to those in ancient Asia. Rock art in Colombia depicting boats with high prows resembles Polynesian designs. These could be coincidences, but their recurrence suggests contact, perhaps fleeting, perhaps profound. Some fringe theorists go further, claiming Asian explorers introduced pyramid building or metallurgy, pointing to similarities between Mayan pyramids and Southeast Asian ziggurats. Others invoke Mo, a sunken land whose refugees shaped both continents, its memory preserved in Polynesian chants and Andean myths. No sunken continent has been found, but underwater structures off Japan's Yonaguni Island, dated to 8,000 years before the Common Era, fuel speculation of a lost Pacific culture. Could these be relics of Mu, or natural formations mistaken for ruins? Why do these ideas struggle for acceptance? The Bering Strait model, dominant in Western scholarship, casts Asia as the sole source of early American populations, marginalizing oceanic voyages. Colonial narratives, emphasizing European discovery, sidelined Asian and Polynesian contributions, framing them as too primitive for such feats. Yet Polynesian wayfinding and Chinese naval technology were unmatched in their time, surpassing European capabilities until the 1500s. Suppression theories abound. Did Ming emperors burn Zheng He's records to erase foreign ventures? Were Polynesian oral histories dismissed as myths by colonial scholars? Modern discoveries, DNA links, crop exchanges, challenge this skepticism, but resistance persists. Funding for Pacific archaeology lags, and sites like Yonaguni remain underexplored, as if history fears its own complexity. These traces, pottery, crops, genes, and stones, paint a picture of an Americas open to the world, a crossroads of cultures long before Columbus. Chinese junks may have anchored off California. Polynesian canoes may have beached in Chile, their crews trading stories under unfamiliar stars. Native legends like those of the Haida speak of ocean strangers with strange tools, while Andean tales of Viracocha, a bearded god from the sea, hint at foreign visitors. Were these Asians, Polynesians, or figments of myth? The evidence, though scattered, refuses to stay silent, urging us to rethink the isolation of the New World. Imagine a golden empire stretching across the sunlit sands of West Africa, its wealth so vast that its ruler could command a fleet of thousands to sail into the unknown, chasing the very edge of the world. This was the Mali Empire in the early 1300s, led by a king who traded his throne for the open sea, driven by a vision that might have reshaped history. Abubakari II, a name that echoes with enigma, launched not one but two colossal expeditions across the Atlantic, seeking lands beyond the green sea of darkness. His story, intertwined with whispers of African footprints in the Americas long before Columbus, challenges the very foundation of the discovery narrative. Did his ships reach these shores? Could the Olmec's colossal heads, with their striking features, be traces of his legacy? And why has this tale, so rich with possibility, been relegated to the shadows of history, dismissed as legend or suppressed by those who wrote the past? Let us step into the court of Mali in 1311, where Abubakari II, ruler of an empire flush with gold, salt and trade, gazed westward with a restless curiosity. The Mali Empire, centered in what is now Senegal, Mali, and Gambia, was a beacon of medieval wealth, its markets bustling with goods from across Africa and the Islamic world. Abu Bakr, unlike most kings content with their power, was a scholar-explorer, steeped in the Islamic tradition of discovery as a sacred duty. He had access to advanced maritime knowledge, compasses, star charts, and dhow-ship designs that rivaled anything in Europe. His first expedition was staggering: 200 ships of men and 200 more laden with gold, food and supplies, a floating city sent to probe the Atlantic's mysteries. Months later, a single ship returned, its captain recounting a tale of powerful currents that had swept the fleet away. Not wrecked, not sunk, but carried into the distance toward an unknown fate. Most rulers would have stopped there, mourning the loss. Abu Bakr did not. In 1312 he made a decision that defies comprehension. He abdicated his throne, appointed his heir Mansa Musa, and led a second, even larger fleet himself, sailing west into oblivion. What became of Abu Bakr and his armada? No records confirm their fate. No wrecks, no survivors' tales. Yet the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. The currents described by the lone survivor match the Canary Current, a powerful flow that could carry ships from West Africa to the Caribbean or South America in a matter of weeks. Modern oceanographers note this route, roughly 1,600 miles, is shorter than many Indian Ocean voyages routinely undertaken by Islamic traders. Thor Heyerdahl's Ra expeditions in 1969 and 1970 proved such crossings were possible using ancient techniques. His papyrus boats reached the Americas from Africa. Could Abu Bakr's fleet, with superior dhows and provisions, have landed in the New World? The timeline aligns. His voyages predate Columbus by nearly 2 centuries, and cultural echoes in the Americas suggest contact. Mansa Musa, during his famous pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324, spoke of his predecessor's quest with reverence, hinting that Abu Bakr might have survived, perhaps founding settlements across the sea. The Olmec civilization, flourishing in Mexico from 1600 to 400 years before the Common Era, offers tantalizing clues. Their colossal heads, carved from basalt and weighing up to 50 tons, bare features, broad noses, full lips, that some scholars, like Ivan van Sertima in his book, They Came Before Columbus, argue resemble West African peoples. These heads, found at San Lorenzo and La Venta, are not mere art but monumental portraits, possibly of rulers or deities. Could they depict African visitors, or even settlers who influenced the Olmec? Van Sertima points to cultural parallels. Olmec pyramids mirror West African mud brick ziggurats, and their ball game, played with rubber, echoes African rituals. Botanical evidence strengthens the case. African crops like cotton and the bottle gourd appear in the Americas before Columbus, their seeds unlikely to cross oceans without human hands. Linguistic traces, too, are intriguing. Mandinka words from Mali resemble terms in Mesoamerican languages, such as Kan for village, found in Mayan dialects. Yet mainstream archaeology pushes back. Critics argue the Olmec heads reflect indigenous features, not African ones, and dismiss linguistic parallels as coincidence. Genetic studies show Native American ancestry is primarily Asian, with no clear African markers from pre-Columbian times. The lack of African artifacts, tools, ships, or settlements further fuels skepticism, but absence is not proof, and the dismissal can feel selective. Radiocarbon dating, often cited to debunk early contact, can be skewed by environmental factors, as seen at Hueyatlaco, Mexico, where dates of 250,000 years were rejected as impossible. Van Sertima's theories, while controversial, draw on oral histories from Mali recorded by chroniclers like Al-Umari, who documented Abu Bakr's voyages. These accounts, preserved through Islamic scholarship, were ignored by European historians who prioritized their own narratives of discovery. The Caribbean adds another layer of mystery. Submerged structures off Cuba, detected by sonar in 2001 at a depth of 600 meters, reveal geometric shapes, rectangles, pyramids, grids that suggest a sunken city. These anomalies, near the Yucatan, align with the currents that could have carried Abu Bakari's fleet. Were they built by an African-influenced culture or an unknown civilization? The Bimini Road in the Bahamas, a half-kilometer stretch of aligned stones, fuels similar speculation. Some see it as a natural formation, but others, citing its precision, link it to African or even Atlantean builders. These sites, underexplored due to funding shortages or academic disinterest, raise questions. Why do excavations stall? Could confirming African contact disrupt the Columbus-centric narrative, threatening colonial legacies? Fringe theories amplify the intrigue. Some propose Abu Bakari's people not only reached the Americas but shaped Olmec culture, teaching them pyramid building or metallurgy. Others tie the Mali voyages to Atlantis, suggesting a lost African-American civilization drowned by rising seas after the Ice Age. The Olmec's sudden decline around 400 years before the Common Era, possibly from environmental shifts or social upheaval, mirrors tales of cataclysmic loss. Conspiracy theorists whisper of suppression. European powers, from the Spanish to modern academia, may have buried evidence to uphold a Eurocentric history. The destruction of Mesoamerican codices by Spanish priests, who burned Mayan and Aztec records, supports this claim. Knowledge was erased to justify conquest. Modern finds, like African plant DNA in pre-Columbian sites, keep the possibility alive, yet funding for African-American archaeological projects lags, as if the past resists scrutiny. Abu Bakari's story, whether he landed or perished, is a testament to human daring. He risked everything: wealth, power, legacy for the unknown, embodying a spirit of exploration that transcends continents. His expeditions, documented by Mali's griots and Islamic scholars, challenged the isolation of the Americas. Native legends, like those of the Taino, speak of dark-skinned visitors from the sea, their boats unlike local canoes. Could these be memories of Mali's mariners? The evidence, botanical, linguistic, archaeological, forms a mosaic, incomplete but compelling. Why then the resistance? Colonial narratives prioritizing European discovery marginalized African achievements. Academic gatekeeping, wary of fringe theories, dismisses anomalies to preserve simplicity. Yet the past whispers through the Olmec heads, the Cuban sonar images, and the currents that still flow westward. Did Abu Bakari's fleet touch American soil, blending cultures in ways we cannot yet prove? Beneath the restless waves of the Caribbean, where turquoise waters hide secrets older than memory, lies a riddle that has haunted humanity for millennia. Picture a lost city, its stone walls shimmering in the deep, columns draped in algae, and streets silent under the weight of the ocean. This is not a tale spun from fantasy, but a question carved in the annals of philosophy and now echoed by modern sonar scans. Plato, in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, spoke of Atlantis, a mighty civilization of concentric rings, gold-clad temples, and advanced knowledge, swallowed by the sea in a single night. Could this fabled island, or something like it, lie hidden off the coasts of the Americas? From the Bahamas to Cuba, submerged structures hint at forgotten peoples, while ancient American cities mirror Plato's vision with eerie precision. What lies beneath these waters? Ruins of a lost world, natural formations, or something stranger still? The mystery of Atlantis and the sunken cities of the Americas beckons us to dive into a past that refuses to stay submerged. Let us begin with Plato's account, written in the 4th century before the Common Era. He described Atlantis as a vast island beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the Strait of Gibraltar, its people masters of wealth and wisdom, their city a marvel of canals and concentric rings. Destroyed by hubris and divine wrath, it sank beneath the waves 9,000 years before his time. Scholars have long debated its location, the Mediterranean, Antarctica, or pure myth, but some point to the Americas, where the timeline and geography align with unsettling clarity. The Caribbean, with its shallow shelves and submerged anomalies, offers tantalizing clues. In 2001, a Canadian-Cuban team using sonar off Cuba's Guanahatabibs Peninsula detected geometric structures, rectangles, pyramids, and grids at a depth of 600 meters. These forms, too precise for nature, resemble a cityscape, sparking speculation of a pre-Ice Age civilization drowned by rising seas. The Bimini Road, discovered in 1968 off the Bahamas, adds to the enigma, a half-kilometer stretch of rectangular limestone blocks aligned like a causeway. Geologists call it natural erosion, but divers note cut edges and uniform placement, suggesting human hands. Could these be remnants of Atlantis or another lost culture? The Americas themselves hold echoes of Plato's tale. In Bolivia, the site of Tiwanaku, flourishing from 300 to 1,000 years after the Common Era, features concentric layouts and megalithic walls, their stones fitted with seamless precision. Pumapunku nearby boasts blocks cut with laser-like accuracy, some weighing over 100 tons, defying the technology of its time. In Ecuador, the Cochesqui site mirrors this design, its circular plazas and canals evoking Atlantis's rings. These similarities fuel theories that Andean cultures inherited knowledge from a sunken predecessor. Plato's Atlantis, larger than Libya and Asia combined, fits a continent more than an island, leading some to propose the Americas as its true location. The Piri-Reis map of 1513, showing the Americas coast with uncanny detail, hints at ancient knowledge, possibly from Phoenician or Egyptian sources. Could these cultures have known of a great land across the Atlantic, its memory preserved in myth? The Caribbean cenotes, sinkholes plunging into underwater caves, deepen the mystery. In Mexico's Sac-Actun system, divers have found stone altars, scorched surfaces, and deity statues, evidence of Mayan rituals in flooded chambers. These caves, dry during the Ice Age, were used for millennia, with skeletons in Hoyo Negro dated to 12,000 years ago. At Chichen Itza, geophysical scans revealed a cenote beneath the El Castillo pyramid, suggesting the Maya built atop sacred water portals. Were these sites chosen to honor a submerged past, perhaps a memory of Atlantis? Mayan cosmology speaks of Xibalba, an underworld reached through water, where gods tested heroes. The submerged temples and stairways in these cenotes feel like echoes of a drowned world, their shimmering walls a testament to a culture that revered water as divine. Some fringe theorists propose these are literal remnants of Atlantis, built when sea levels were lower, then flooded as glaciers melted. The Nazca lines in Peru, etched into the desert from 1000 to 800 years after the Common Era, add another layer. These massive geoglyphs, animals, shapes, lines visible only from the air, resemble Plato's description of Atlantis's vast designs. Erich von Däniken suggested they were signals for extraterrestrial visitors, but could they mark a lost coastal city now underwater? Sonar scans off Peru's coast have revealed submerged anomalies, possibly structures, though exploration lags. The Inca, too, carry Atlantean echoes. Their Coricancha temple, aligned with the solstices, and Machu Picchu's precise stonework suggest a sophistication that defies their lack of writing or wheels. Oral traditions speak of Viracocha, a sea-born god who taught civilization, his bearded visage hinting at foreign influence. Could he represent survivors of a sunken culture, their knowledge shaping Andean societies? Conspiracy theories thrive in these gaps. Some claim governments halt underwater excavations to avoid rewriting history, fearing the chaos of admitting a pre-Columbian civilization that rivaled Egypt. The Cuban sonar findings, announced with fanfare, stalled without explanation, while Bimini Road studies face funding cuts. Others suggest colonial powers suppressed evidence to justify conquest, erasing traces of advanced American cultures. The Spanish burned Mayan codices, potentially destroying records of ancient contacts or lost cities. Modern technology, satellite imagery, AI mapping has revived interest, uncovering new geoglyphs and underwater anomalies. Yet mainstream archaeology remains cautious, dismissing Atlantis as myth. But myths often hold kernels of truth. Plato's tale, sourced from Egyptian priests, may preserve a memory of a real cataclysm, a comet, tsunami or glacial flood that sank coastal cities around 11,000 years ago, aligning with the end of the Ice Age. Native American stories amplify the intrigue. Taino legends speak of a great flood that reshaped their islands, while Andean myths describe a deluge sent by the gods to punish hubris, mirroring Plato's account. These tales, dismissed as folklore, may encode historical events, just as the Trojan War emerged from Homer's epics. Submerged structures off Yonaguni, Japan, dated to 8,000 years before the Common Era, suggest a global pattern of sunken sites, perhaps linked by ancient mariners. Could the Americas' coastal ruins, Cuba, Bimini, Peru, be part of this network? A forgotten hub connecting Africa, Asia, and the New World. The lack of artifacts fuels skepticism, but the ocean is a jealous keeper of secrets, its depths hiding wrecks and cities beyond our reach. The Atlantis question transcends geography. It is a symbol of what we have lost. Whether a real place or a metaphor for hubris, its echoes in American ruins, concentric cities, megalithic stones, submerged temples suggest a deeper truth. Were these civilizations built by survivors of a great flood, their knowledge preserved in stone and story? Why do we resist exploring these depths? The evidence, sonar images, ancient maps, indigenous myths, forms a mosaic, incomplete but compelling. As we peer into the Caribbean's blue abyss, we ask, are these sunken cities the edge of Atlantis, or a chapter of history we were never meant to read? Step into a realm where the boundaries of history blur, where the artifacts of the ancient Americas whisper tales too strange for textbooks, and where shadows of forgotten truths dance in the flickering light of speculation. The civilizations we have explored, Olmec, Maya, Aztec, Inca, and beyond, left behind not just ruins, but enigmas that refuse to fit neatly into the narrative of human progress. From crystal skulls that defy explanation to colossal earthworks tied to biblical legends, from whispers of extraterrestrial architects to claims of suppressed knowledge, the Americas harbor mysteries that challenge our very understanding of the past. What if the pyramids were more than mere temples, their designs encoding cosmic secrets? Could artifacts dismissed as hoaxes hold clues to a history we are not yet ready to accept? Begin with the crystal skulls, those polished quartz marvels attributed to the Maya or Aztec, said to pulse with an otherworldly energy. 13 are known, scattered across museums and private collections, their origins shrouded in mystery. The Mitchell-Hedges skull, discovered in Belize in 1924, is the most famous, its flawless craftsmanship suggesting an advanced technology. Some claim these skulls are pre-Columbian, used in rituals to channel divine or alien wisdom, their optical properties focusing light in ways that defy ancient tools. Mainstream scholars, like those at the Smithsonian, argue they are 19th-century forgeries, carved with modern abrasives in Europe. Yet tests on the Paris skull in 2008 revealed microabrasions, hinting at older techniques, reigniting the debate. Fringe theorists, inspired by figures like Max the Crystal Skull's caretaker, propose they are relics of a lost civilization, perhaps Atlantis, or gifts from extraterrestrial visitors, encoding knowledge of energy fields or cosmic events. Why do they captivate us? Their eerie clarity, some say, mirrors the Mayas' obsession with time, suggesting a purpose beyond ornament, perhaps as tools for prophecy or interdimensional communication. The lack of clear provenance fuels speculation. Were they hidden by colonial powers to erase evidence of advanced ancient tech, or are they clever hoaxes exploiting our thirst for mystery? Now turn to the earthworks of North America, particularly the Ohio Valley's mounds built by the Hopewell and Mississippian cultures. These structures, like the Serpent Mound, a quarter-mile-long effigy coiling across the landscape, align with solstices and lunar cycles, suggesting astronomical mastery. In the 19th century, Mormon scholars linked these to the lost tribes of Israel, claiming Hebrew exiles reached the Americas, their descendants building these mounds. The Bat Creek stone, found in Tennessee in 1889, bears inscriptions some interpret as Paleo-Hebrew, supporting this theory. Critics dismiss it as a fraud, citing inconsistent dating, yet the stone's symbols remain unexplained. Could these mounds be the temples of a forgotten diaspora, or markers of a pre-Columbian civilization with Old World ties? Conspiracy theorists argue the Smithsonian has suppressed such finds, storing artifacts in hidden vaults to uphold a narrative that excludes biblical connections. Recent geophysical surveys have revealed more mounds, some with geometric precision, hinting at a sophistication that challenges the primitive label. Were they built by locals alone, or with knowledge from across the sea? The extraterrestrial hypothesis looms large. Fueled by figures like Erich von Däniken, he argued that American pyramids, from Teotihuacan to Chichen Itza, were energy devices or landing platforms for alien visitors. The Nazca Lines, visible only from the air, are his prime evidence, runways for UFOs, he claimed, not ritual paths. Mayan carvings, like Pakal's tomb lid in Palenque, depict what some see as an astronaut in a cockpit, surrounded by cosmic symbols. Mainstream archaeologists counter that these are symbolic, not literal, representing gods or journeys to the underworld. Yet the precision of Inca stonework, blocks fitted without mortar, and Maya astronomical tables predicting eclipses with uncanny accuracy spark questions. Could aliens have guided these cultures, or did they tap into a universal knowledge? Modern UFO sightings near ancient sites, like the reported lights over Chichen Itza in 2020, keep the theory alive. Skeptics point to cultural bias, attributing indigenous achievements to aliens, but the anomalies persist, daring us to wonder if the past holds extraterrestrial fingerprints. Suppression narratives weave through these mysteries. Many believe that academia, governments, or religious institutions hide evidence to maintain a Eurocentric, Columbus-first history. The destruction of Mayan and Aztec codices by Spanish priests in the 1500s is well documented, erasing records that might have detailed ancient contacts or technologies. The Vatican, some claim, holds secret archives of pre-Columbian voyages, suppressed to protect Christian timelines. In North America, artifacts like the Los Lunas Decalogue stone, inscribed with Hebrew commandments, are dismissed as hoaxes, yet their age and context remain debated. Why do such finds vanish or face such fierce skepticism? Conspiracy theorists suggest a deep state agenda, fearing that acknowledging advanced ancient cultures would upend colonial justifications or religious doctrines. Recent discoveries like DNA linking Native Americans to distant populations or sonar revealing submerged structures are often underfunded, as if exploration is deliberately stalled. The silence around these findings can feel louder than the evidence itself, hinting at a history too complex for comfort. Other phenomena defy categorization. The Kensington runestone, found in Minnesota in 1898, bears Norse runes claiming a 1362 expedition, centuries after the Vikings. Scholars debate its authenticity, but its inscriptions match medieval Scandinavian styles. Could it prove later European contact, or is it a farmer's prank? In Peru, the Ica stones, depicting dinosaurs and advanced technology, emerged in the 1960s, dismissed as forgeries but eerily consistent with local legends of ancient knowledge. These artifacts, whether real or staged, tap into a deeper question. Are we missing a chapter of human history, one where the Americas were a crossroads of ideas, peoples, or even beings from beyond? Native oral traditions, from Hopi tales of star ancestors to Taino stories of sea-born gods, echo these anomalies, suggesting a past where the impossible was real. These conspiracies and phenomena, skulls, mounds, alien theories, suppressed truths, form a mosaic of doubt and wonder. They challenge the linear narrative of human progress, suggesting the Americas were not isolated, but a hub of ancient exchange, Why do we resist these ideas? A fear of rewriting history, perhaps, or a discomfort with a past that defies our tools and timelines. The evidence, though fragmented runes, carvings, oral tales, refuses to fade, each piece a whisper from a world we have yet to understand. As we sift through these mysteries, we ask, were the Americas shaped by forces beyond our reckoning, their secrets buried by time or by design? The past is a fragile thing, not carved in stone but written in whispers, easily silenced by those who hold the pen. Across the Americas, from the jungles of the Yucatan to the deserts of Peru, from the Mississippi's mounds to the Caribbean's sunken stones, we have uncovered traces of civilizations and contacts that challenge the history we were taught. Footprints older than the Bering Migration, tools too advanced for their time, maps hinting at lost worlds, and legends of visitors from distant shores all point to a story far richer than the one in our textbooks. Yet these clues are often dismissed, ignored, or buried. Why? What forces conspire to keep the Americas' ancient truths in the shadows? And what are the consequences of this silence, not just for history, but for our understanding of who we are? Let us unravel this enigma not as a tale of blame but as a journey into the motives and costs of a hidden past, where every suppressed artifact and silent story begs us to ask, what are we afraid to know? Consider the weight of the official narrative, the one that crowns Christopher Columbus as the discoverer of a new world in 1492. This story, woven into the fabric of Western education, paints the Americas as a blank canvas populated by scattered tribes until European sails arrived. But the evidence we have explored, Monteverde's 18,000-year-old settlement, White Sand's 23,000-year-old footprints, Olmec heads with African features, and submerged structures off Cuba, suggests a far older, more connected world. Why then are these findings sidelined? One answer lies in the inertia of academic tradition. The Bering Strait migration theory, established in the early 20th century, became a cornerstone of anthropology, supported by genetic links to Asia and Clovis tools. Anomalies like Pedraforada's 50,000-year-old artifacts, or Solutrean-like blades, threaten this framework, demanding a rewrite that could unravel decades of scholarship. Academics, bound by peer review and funding, often resist labeling such finds as errors or hoaxes. At Hueyatlaco, Mexico, where charred wood was dated to 250,000 years, the excavation was halted not for a lack of evidence, but because the age was deemed impossible. This is not science following truth, but dogma guarding its gates. Beyond academia, colonial legacies cast a long shadow. When the Spanish conquered the Americas, they burned Mayan and Aztec codices, erasing centuries of knowledge to impose a Christian, Eurocentric order. This destruction was not mere zealotry, but a calculated act to justify conquest, by framing indigenous peoples as savages devoid of history. The Vatican, some theorists claim, holds secret archives of pre-Columbian contact, Phoenician, African, or Chinese, suppressed to maintain biblical timelines or European supremacy. The Piri-Reis map, showing the Americas in 1513, hints at such knowledge, possibly drawn from older sources, yet its implications are downplayed. The Taínos' oral histories of seaborne visitors were dismissed as myths, their Zemi statues reduced to curiosities. This erasure served a purpose. A new world was easier to claim if its past was empty. By silencing evidence of advanced civilizations or early contacts, colonial powers crafted a narrative that legitimized exploitation, a narrative that lingers in modern education. Political motives also play a role. Acknowledging African explorers like Abu Bakari II or Polynesian voyages could elevate non-European contributions, challenging the Eurocentric myth of discovery. In the United States, the idea of Solutrean contact or lost tribes building Ohio's mounds stirs unease, as it risks complicating Native American ancestry or fueling nationalist agendas. The Bat Creek stone, with its possible Hebrew inscriptions, was dismissed as a forgery, yet its symbols remain unexplained. Governments, wary of cultural upheaval, may quietly discourage excavations that threaten established histories. The Cuban sonar anomalies, detected in 2001, sparked excitement but stalled without funding, as if the prospect of a pre-Columbian city was too disruptive. Conspiracy theorists go further, alleging a deep state agenda. Museums like the Smithsonian are said to hide artifacts, from Lovelock Cave's giant bones to crystal skulls, to prevent a paradigm shift that could question modern power structures or religious doctrines. The consequences of this suppression are profound, stretching beyond history books to the heart of identity and truth. For indigenous peoples, the erasure of their ancient achievements, Carroll's 5,000-year-old city, Cahokia's monumental mounds, robs them of a legacy that rivals Egypt or Rome. The Mayas' astronomical precision, the Incas' seismic-resistant stonework, and the Taínos' complex societies are reduced to footnotes, diminishing their cultural weight. This loss fuels distrust. When history is curated to exclude African, Asian, or pre-Columbian European contacts, it alienates communities whose ancestors may have crossed these oceans, from Mali's mariners to Polynesian wayfinders. The Olmec heads, with their debated African features, become battlegrounds, not bridges, as Afrocentric scholars like Ivan van Satema are marginalized, their theories dismissed as speculative despite botanical and linguistic clues. This silencing also stifles curiosity. The Nazca lines, aligned with the stars or, as some claim, with alien visitors, are studied sparingly, their aerial perspective unexplained. The Kensington Roostone, with its Norse runes, languishes in debate, its potential to prove medieval contact unexplored. When artifacts like the Los Lunas Decalogue stone vanish, or excavations like the Bimini Road falter, we lose chances to test bold ideas about Atlantis, Mu, or extraterrestrial influence. The cost is a narrower worldview, where history is a straight line, not a web of possibilities. Modern discoveries, DNA linking Polynesians to South Americans, sonar revealing Caribbean structures, struggle for attention as funding prioritizes safe research over radical questions. The public, hungry for truth, turns to fringe theories, from ancient astronauts to hidden vaults, because mainstream channels often offer only silence. Yet the past persists, its whispers growing louder. Recent advances, satellite imagery, uncovering new geoglyphs, AI decoding Quipu knots, revive hope. UFO sightings near Chichen Itza or Machu Picchu, reported as recently as 2025, fuel speculation of ancient extraterrestrial ties, echoing von Däniken's claims. Indigenous oral traditions, like the Hopi's star ancestors or Andean flood myths, align with archaeological finds, suggesting a history encoded in story. The consequence of suppression is not just lost knowledge, but a fractured connection to our shared humanity. By denying the Americas' complexity, its early migrations, global contacts, or cosmic ambitions, we limit our understanding of what humans can achieve. Are we hiding from a past that could redefine us, one where the Americas were a crossroads of cultures, ideas, or even otherworldly visitors? As we probe these shadows, we see not just a cover-up, but a challenge. The artifacts, from crystal skulls to submerged cities, demand that we listen without prejudice. The consequences of ignoring them are clear. A history that excludes, divides, and diminishes. Without prejudice, the consequences of ignoring them are clear. A history that excludes, divides, and diminishes. The truth, though buried, is not gone. It waits in the earth, the sea, and the stories of those who came before. What do we fear by unearthing it? A past where humans sailed, built, and dreamed beyond our imagination, or a future where we must confront our own reluctance to embrace the unknown? As the night deepens and the stars emerge, let us pause at the edge of this journey through the ancient Americas, where the past has unfolded like a river, winding through shadows and secrets. We have walked among the footprints of white sands, older than any textbook allows. We have gazed upon the Olmec's enigmatic stone heads and traced the Incas' roads that defy the mountains. We have sailed with Vikings, Polynesians, and an African king, Abu Bakari II, whose vanished fleets whisper of forgotten shores. From the submerged stones of Bimini to the cosmic carvings of the Maya, from the Nazca's skyward lines to the crystal skulls that pulse with mystery, the Americas reveal a history not of isolation, but of connection, a tapestry woven with threads of human daring, lost knowledge, and perhaps even otherworldly echoes. Now, as we stand at this crossroads of time, what do these whispers ask of us? How do they reshape the way we see ourselves, not just as inheritors of a settled history, but as seekers of truth still waiting to be found? This journey has not been about rewriting history with certainty, but about listening to its murmurs, the soft voices of artifacts and legends that refuse to stay silent. The Americas, we were told, were a blank slate until Columbus's sails broke the horizon. Yet every discovery challenges that tale. The 32,000-year-old tools of Pedraforada, the celestial alignments of Cahokia's mounds, the sonar shadows in the Cuban seas, all suggest a world where people crossed oceans, built wonders and dreamed beyond the stars long before 1500. These are not mere anomalies. They are invitations to wonder. What if the past was a global stage, where Africans, Asians, Europeans, and Polynesians met in the Americas, their stories erased by time, conquest? What if the Atlantis myth with its sunken rings is not a fable but a memory of cities like Caral or Tiwanaku, drowned by floods or buried by jungles? The questions linger, not as answers to be claimed, but as sparks to ignite our curiosity, urging us to look beyond the pages we were given. The cost of ignoring these sparks is heavy. By clinging to a simplified history, we lose the richness of our shared humanity, the ingenuity of the Incas' quipu, the courage of Polynesian wayfinders, the vision of a Malian king who sailed into the unknown. We risk alienating those whose ancestors built these wonders, from the Taino's Zimi-carved villages to the Mississippian star-aligned mounds, their legacies diminished to fit a colonial narrative. Yet the past is not silent. It speaks through every unearthed tool, every submerged stone, every indigenous story of sea-born gods. Modern tools, DNA mapping, satellite scans, AI decoding, are bringing these voices closer, revealing Polynesian genes in Chile, African crops in ancient Mexico, and structures beneath the Caribbean waves. These discoveries are not threats but gifts, offering a chance to see the Americas as a crossroads of cultures, where human ambition knew no bounds. So as you drift towards sleep, let these mysteries linger like a gentle tide. Which tale resonates most deeply with you? Do you hear the call of Abu Bakari's lost fleet, or see the Nazca lines as signals to the sky? Perhaps the curves of the Serpent Mound or the stones of Machu Picchu hold your imagination, whispering of a past where humans touched the divine, or something stranger still. What story do you believe? And what questions keep you awake at night? The past is not a closed book, but a living current flowing through us, asking to be heard. May these echoes of forgotten worlds guide you into dreams where the past is not lost, but waiting to be rediscovered. Let the stars above and the ruins below lull you into a restful night, where the mysteries of the Americas unfold in your mind, their secrets as boundless as the ocean. Sleep well, and may you wake with a spark of wonder, ready to chase the truths that time could not erase.